The alien observation craft hovered unseen above the blue world, its hull bending light so completely that every human sensor missed it. Inside, Commander Theros stood before a wide, transparent viewport, his long, scaled body coiled in a posture of calm authority. His 4 eyes studied the planet called Earth with measured interest. After 3 planetary cycles of surveillance, he believed he understood its dominant species. "Bring up the emotional behavior archive," Theros ordered. The display shifted. A human woman sat curled on a couch, cradling a small furred animal. She spoke to it in a high, almost childish voice, stroking its head. The animal responded with a low vibrating sound. "What is the purpose of this interaction?" asked Officer Virek, a young Valinari with emerald-patterned scales. "Our analysts identify it as affection," replied Scholar Nex. "The creature is a domesticated predator known as a cat. Humans keep them for companionship, despite no tactical or economic value." Several officers clicked their mandibles in disbelief. "They allocate food, shelter, and medical care to non-essential life forms?" Virek asked. "Yes. Voluntarily." Another clip appeared. Hundreds of humans sat in rows, watching other humans perform on a stage. Some laughed. Others cried. "No danger. No reward." "This is theater," Nex explained. "Fictional narratives. Humans experience real emotional distress over events they know are imaginary." Theros let out a low hiss of amusement. "A species that grieves illusions." Over months of observation, the Valinari had catalogued thousands of such examples. Humans danced in rainstorms. They spent hours arranging food purely for visual pleasure. They risked their lives to save animals trapped in fires or floods. They argued passionately over symbols and songs. They mourned the past. They celebrated dates that held no strategic meaning. "They are inefficient," Virek concluded. "Emotion-driven. Soft. And divided," Theros added. "Fragmented into hundreds of rival nations, many hostile to one another. A species at war with itself is incapable of unified resistance." The High Council received Theros's report without hesitation. "Earth is suitable for absorption," Theros stated to the holographic assembly of ancient Valinari elders. 8 billion individuals. Limited space capability. Primitive weapons. No evidence of species-level survival instinct. "Explain their weakness," demanded Elder Seraph. "They prioritize attachment over logic, nostalgia, sentiment, ritual. They form bonds to individuals, locations, even objects. Such tendencies compromise decisive action." "And their military structure?" another elder asked. "Disorganized, nationalistic, wasteful. They compete internally rather than advancing collectively." The Council's decision was unanimous. Proceed with contact. 2 weeks later, a Valinari diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere and settled outside a city called Geneva. Its metallic surface reflected sunlight like a second star. Humans gathered immediately, recording with handheld devices, voices buzzing with excitement rather than fear. A human male stepped forward, extending a bare hand. He wore a practiced smile. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "I'm Ambassador Daniel Reeves. This is my aide, Elena Moore." Theros studied the exposed flesh. Vulnerable. "I am Commander Theros of the Valinari Collective," he replied, briefly touching the human's hand. "We come in peace." The human smile widened, revealing teeth, an instinctive threat display in most species, yet here a sign of friendliness. Over the following days, the Valinari delegation was treated with remarkable hospitality. They were shown art galleries, universities, orchestras. They shared meals prepared with unnecessary care. Humans laughed easily, asked questions, and showed genuine curiosity about Valinari culture. Ambassador Reeves was particularly skilled. He listened attentively, spoke with warmth, and never appeared defensive. Elena Moore observed quietly, always taking notes, always asking precise questions masked as casual curiosity. The Rose transmitted regular updates to the Council. Their kindness is sincere, he reported. And exploitable. They desire connection more than caution. On the 10th day, he sent his final assessment. When annexation begins, resistance will be minimal. Many may even welcome integration. The Council was pleased. None of them noticed how Reeves's smile never fully reached his eyes. 6 months passed. Trade talks advanced. Cultural exchanges expanded. Human scientists toured Valinari ship. Valinari researchers visited Earth's laboratories. Trust deepened, at least on the surface. Then a mining corporation operating near Mars detected massive construction on the planet's surface. Valinari military structures. The report reached Ambassador Reeves within hours. He read it twice, then stared out the window. Elena entered quietly. You saw it. Yes. What now? Reeves activated a secure line. We ask politely. The meeting was scheduled the next day. Commander Theros arrived relaxed, confident. Mars is a logistical necessity, he said smoothly. A forward base. You didn't consult us, Reeves replied calmly. Consultation was unnecessary, Theros said. Mars is unclaimed. Elena leaned forward. Humanity has established territorial intent. Intent is not ownership, Theros replied, amused. You placed machines. We placed infrastructure. The tension was subtle, but present. Commander, Reeves said evenly, we value our relationship. Decisions affecting our system should be discussed. Theros studied him. Ambassador, I will be direct. The Valinari Collective does not negotiate with species confined to one star. Consider yourselves fortunate we arrived as diplomats. Reeves reached into his case and produced a data chip. Before this continues, he said, we'd like to share some background on our species. Theros accepted it without concern. History, Reeves added. Unfiltered. 3 days later, Theros was summoned urgently by intelligence. The footage filled the wall. Wars. Blades. Guns. Bombs. Cities burning. 10,000 years, the analyst whispered. Constant conflict. Over 15,000 documented wars. Theros felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. These are the same beings who cry at stories, he said quietly. Yes, the analyst replied. And the same beings who never stop fighting. Far below, on Earth, Ambassador Reeves sat with Elena. Do you think they understand now? She asked. Not yet, he replied. They've already decided we're harmless. And when they don't believe it? Reeves's smile disappeared. Then we show them. The Valinari High Council chamber was silent as the Human Historical Archive finished playing. The final image froze on the screen, a human city reduced to ash beneath a towering cloud of fire. No one spoke at first. Elder Sereth was the first to break the silence. This is manipulation, he said flatly. Crude intimidation. A weak species exaggerating its past to inspire fear. Commander Theros stood at the center of the chamber, his coils tense. My intelligence division verified the footage. These events occurred. They were not fabricated. Impossible, another elder snapped. A species this violent would have annihilated itself before achieving orbital flight. And yet they persist, Theros replied carefully. 8 billion of them. Still advancing. Elder Sereth studied the frozen image. They cry over fiction. They nurture animals. They celebrate meaningless traditions. These contradictions suggest instability, not strength. Or adaptability, Theros said, surprising even himself. The elder dismissed the thought with a flick of his claw. Their current capabilities are primitive. Their emotional nature ensures collapse under pressure. We proceed. The vote was unanimous. The ultimatum was prepared. It was delivered on a clear autumn morning in Geneva, in the same chamber where first contact had been celebrated with smiles and applause. Commander Theros personally read the declaration aloud while Ambassador Reeves listened with a polite, unreadable expression. The Valinari Collective formally claims sovereignty over Earth and its system. Humanity will be integrated as a subordinate population. You are granted 30 standard days to comply. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Reeves accepted the document, reading it slowly. 30 days, he said calmly. That's reasonable. Theros watched him closely. He had expected outrage, fear, pleading. Instead, acceptance. Understand this, Ambassador, Theros added. Defiance will cost millions of lives. Reeves met his gaze. For just a moment, the warmth vanished from his eyes. Thank you for your honesty, he said. We'll use the time productively. The meeting ended. Within hours, Reeves convened an emergency assembly. Leaders who had spent centuries distrusting one another sat at the same table. Borders, ideologies, old grudges, all irrelevant now. We have 30 days, Reeves told them. And no second chances. Elena Moore stood beside him, no longer pretending to be merely an aide. Her voice was sharp, precise. They underestimated us from the moment they arrived. They think kindness is weakness. Emotion is inefficiency. They believe we will surrender because it's logical. She paused. We don't surrender when survival is on the line. Factories shifted production overnight. Research labs opened sealed projects once deemed too dangerous or unethical. Militaries shared classified technology without hesitation. Engineers studied every byte of Valinari data gathered during the friendly exchanges. Humanity moved as one for the first time in its history. Above Earth, the Valinari invasion fleet assembled exactly as planned. 1,200 warships formed perfect geometric patterns in orbit. Commander Theros stood on the bridge of his flagship, confidence restored. Scan for defenses, he ordered. The sensor officer hesitated. Minimal surface activity detected. Cities appear largely undefended. Theros felt relief. The humans had chosen survival over pride. Begin deployment, he said. 200 transport vessels broke formation and descended toward Earth. Then the sky lit up. Missiles rose from oceans, deserts, forests, cities, thousands of them. Not chaotic. Coordinated. Intercept. Theros shouted. Point defense systems activated, destroying many projectiles. But more kept coming. Commander, the sensor officer said, voice shaking. They're adjusting trajectories mid-flight. Predictive targeting. The first transport vessel detonated. Then another. Then dozens. Those missiles, the officer continued, they're using our own algorithms. Modified. Theros felt cold spread through his body. They had been studying more than art. On Earth, Sergeant Alex Moreno crouched behind the shattered remains of a highway overpass. His squad waited silently around him, weapons humming softly with hybrid power cores. Contact in 2 minutes, came the whisper in his earpiece. He looked at his team, people from different nations, different languages, united by one truth. This isn't about winning, he said quietly. It's about making sure they never try this again. The Valinari troops advanced from their landing zone in perfect formation, armor gleaming, confidence absolute. The ground exploded beneath them. Charges placed weeks earlier tore through armored vehicles. Fire rained from rooftops. Human fighters emerged from tunnels, ruins, shadows, striking, vanishing, striking again. Valinari armor failed where human engineers had found weaknesses. Weapons overheated. Communications collapsed. Fall back, the Valinari commander screamed. The landing craft was already burning. Across the planet, the same nightmare unfolded. In cities, humans turned buildings into traps. In mountains, entire divisions vanished under controlled avalanches. In jungles, Valinari units disappeared without a single confirmed kill. Reports flooded Theros's command deck. Supply depots destroyed. Communications compromised. They're predicting our movements. They're inside our systems. Then a transmission request appeared. Ambassador Reeves. Theros accepted it. Reeves appeared on screen wearing a military uniform. The friendly diplomat was gone. You gave us 6 months, Reeves said calmly. Time to learn. Time to prepare. You deceived us, Theros hissed. No, Reeves replied. We hoped you'd choose peace. You didn't. What do you want? We want you to leave. And if we don't? Reeves's voice hardened. Then we won't stop at Earth. The transmission ended. Theros stared at the tactical display as his fleet bled. For the first time in his career, he understood fear. The war did not unfold the way the Valinari had planned. It did not resemble any conflict they had fought in their long history of conquest. There were no decisive opening battles, no clear fronts, no predictable escalation. Instead, the humans turned the invasion into 1,000 separate nightmares that never ended. Within the first week, nearly half of the Valinari ground forces were gone. Not defeated in honorable combat, but erased, cut off, isolated, dismantled by enemies who refused to fight on open ground. Human units never held territory longer than necessary. They struck, vanished, and returned somewhere else entirely, leaving confusion and fear behind. Commander Theros watched the reports accumulate in stunned silence. Unit Sigma lost in Siberia. No survivors. Orbital resupply route compromised. Enemy forces are operating inside our command networks. They were everywhere and nowhere at once. Human resistance did not rely on overwhelming firepower. It relied on patience, on understanding terrain, on knowing exactly when not to fight. Entire Valinari divisions chased phantoms for days, only to discover their supply lines gone and their retreat routes destroyed. Cities became death traps. In New York, Valinari troops advanced street by street, only to be attacked from below by fighters emerging from tunnels older than their civilization. In Tokyo, precision strikes eliminated command units before the first order could be given. In the Alps, armored columns were funneled into narrow passes and buried under mountainsides triggered by carefully placed charges. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Humans studied failure and adapted faster than Valinari doctrine could update. New countermeasures appeared within days. What worked once never worked twice. Theros began sleeping on the command deck, his rest broken by endless alerts. He replayed footage of human soldiers moving through darkness with silent coordination, communicating with gestures, trusting one another with absolute certainty. They fought like a single organism. On the 9th day, the Valinari attempted to regain orbital superiority. It failed. Human spacecraft, modified cargo haulers, mining vessels, even repurposed civilian transports, rose from Earth and its moons carrying weapons no analyst had predicted. They used stolen Valinari components, integrated with human engineering in ways that should not have worked, but did. Several Valinari warships were crippled by what appeared to be improvised kinetic weapons. Simple, brutal, effective. This is irrational, an officer said. They are sacrificing ships. They are buying time, Theros replied quietly. And time was exactly what the humans used best. By the 3rd month, the war expanded beyond Earth. Human forces assaulted the Valinari base on Mars, cutting off a major supply node. Raids struck fuel depots and communication relays across the system. The invaders found themselves defending instead of advancing. The High Council demanded explanations. We are facing unprecedented resistance, Theros reported. Their emotional nature does not impair them. It drives them. Then break them, Elder Sereth snapped. Increase pressure. Civilian centers. Theros hesitated. That will strengthen them. The Elder scoffed. Nonsense. The order was given anyway. The first bombardment of a human city lasted 11 minutes. The response lasted 11 months. Human retaliation was immediate and merciless. Valinari ships were hunted relentlessly. Supply convoys vanished. Colonies once thought secure went dark. Humans did not celebrate victories. They mourned their dead and fought harder. Factories ran without pause. Scientists slept in laboratories. Civilians volunteered for missions with survival rates that would have horrified any Valinari commander. They are exhausting themselves, an analyst claimed. They are enduring, Theros corrected. By the 6th month, the Valinari High Council requested negotiations for the first time in its history. General Reeves, now commanding Earth's unified defense, reviewed the proposal with Elena Moore beside him. They want a ceasefire, Elena said. They keep Mars. Reeves shook his head slowly. They still think this is a negotiation between equals. Our counterterms? She asked. Total withdrawal. Recognition of sovereignty. Reparations. The Council rejected it. The war continued. By the 9th month, Valinari forces were in full retreat. Entire fleets were lost to ambushes in deep space. Human raiders operated far beyond expected range, striking targets that should have been unreachable. Elder Sereth was removed from the council. Theros was ordered home to face inquiry. He never made it. On the 11th month, the last Valinari warship fled the solar system. The war was over. Earth did not celebrate. Cities lay in ruins. Graves filled fields and parks. The victory was survival, nothing more. 6 months later, representatives from dozens of interstellar civilizations gathered at a neutral station. Humanity arrived without escorts, without displays of power. Reeves and Moore walked into the chamber as they had during first contact, calm, polite, composed. The delegates watched them carefully. We come in peace, Reeves began, and several beings visibly tensed. We know what you've heard, he continued. What you think we are. Moore stepped forward. We never wanted war. We tried to warn the Valinari. They chose not to listen. Reeves nodded. We are builders, caretakers, dreamers. But we evolved on a world that demanded strength. He met their eyes. Come to us as friends, and you will find no allies more loyal. Come as conquerors, and you will find no enemies more relentless. Silence followed. One by one, species chose dialogue over distance. Later, in a quiet chamber, a disgraced Valinari prisoner was granted a final meeting. Commander Theros stood before Reeve. I mistook your kindness for weakness, Theros said quietly. Your emotions are not flaws. They are weapons. Reeves extended his hand. We hope no one else ever forces us to prove that again. The meeting with Commander Theros was brief, but it lingered in General Reeves's thoughts long after the Valinari prisoner was escorted away. There had been no anger in the alien's voice, only clarity. Understanding, earned too late. Humanity had paid dearly for that understanding, but it had also changed how the galaxy would see Earth forever. In the months that followed the war, Earth rebuilt in silence rather than celebration. There were no grand parades, no declarations of triumph. Memorials rose instead, simple structures etched with names, many too numerous to read. Families mourned quietly. Cities healed slowly. Humanity had survived, but survival carried weight. At the same time, something unprecedented was happening beyond Earth's atmosphere. Interstellar communication channels, once silent, began to fill with cautious messages. Trade inquiries, cultural probes, requests for observers. Species that had watched the Valinari invasion from a safe distance now approached Earth with careful respect. Not fear. Respect. The battle footage had spread despite efforts to contain it. Analysts across the galaxy studied recordings of human resistance with growing unease. No rigid doctrine. No reliance on overwhelming technology. Just adaptation, cooperation, and a willingness to endure losses without breaking. That terrified civilizations built on efficiency and calculation. A second assembly was convened 1 year after the war's end. This time, nearly 50 spacefaring species attended. Humanity was no longer an unknown variable. It was a confirmed constant. General Reeves addressed the chamber once again, his voice calm but firm. We know what you're wondering, he said. Whether Earth will become what the Valinari feared. A subtle pause. We won't. He spoke of rebuilding hospitals before shipyards, of restoring ecosystems damaged by orbital debris, of dismantling emergency weapons programs that were no longer necessary. Transparency replaced secrecy. Observers were invited. Limits were declared openly. We learned long ago, Reeves continued, that power without restraint destroys itself. Elena Moore followed him. Our capacity for violence is real, she said plainly. We won't pretend otherwise. But it exists because our capacity for attachment exists. Take away one, and the other loses meaning. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others listened intently. A Valinari representative finally spoke. And if another power attacks you? Reeves answered without hesitation. Then we will do what we already proved we can do. The implication was clear. Defense, not dominance. Treaties followed. Carefully worded. Mutually binding. Humanity did not rush into alliances. It chose slowly, deliberately. Every agreement carried one consistent clause. Sovereignty was non-negotiable. Earth would not kneel. Years passed. Commander Theros's trial concluded quietly within Valinari space. His testimony reshaped Valinari military doctrine permanently. Expansion halted. Observation replaced annexation. The collective withdrew from contested systems, unwilling to repeat its greatest mistake. Theros spent the remainder of his life teaching young officers a lesson that would echo through generations. Never judge a species by what it loves, he told them. Judge it by what it refuses to lose. Back on Earth, children born after the war learned of it through stories, not sirens. They studied the conflict not as a victory, but as a warning. Schools taught cooperation alongside history. Humanity did not glorify what it had become when threatened. But it did not forget. One evening, years later, Reeves stood on a balcony overlooking a rebuilt city. Lights stretched endlessly into the distance. Life, loud and imperfect, continued. Elena joined him, handing over a tablet. New contact request, she said. Unaligned system. They want advice. Defense planning. Reeves smiled faintly. Tell them we'll talk, he said. But we won't sell weapons. Just lessons, she asked. Just lessons. He looked out at the sky where alien fleets had once gathered with hostile intent. Humanity had not changed the galaxy through conquest. It had changed it by proving something ancient and deeply unsettling to every advanced civilization watching. That kindness and brutality were not opposite. They were partners, and when bound together by purpose, they created something far more dangerous than any weapon system. A species that would laugh, cry, nurture, forgive, and fight until nothing remained to fight with. Earth did not seek the stars. But the stars learned to respect Earth.